Water is absolutely everywhere on this planet. Water is not only in abundance in places we can see it, like oceans, but it is a building block in all living things. An adult male is made up of approximately 60 to 65% water. Many other animals have this proportion of water in their bodies being around the 2/3 area, but there are some animals like the jellyfish that are made up of around 90% water. The amount of water in plants can vary considerably. Generally, the water percentage in plants is between 60 to 80%. This depends on what the plant is made up of, as plants that are high in woody substances generally have a lower proportion of water in them. On the other end of the spectrum, there are some water plants that have water accounting for around 95% of their weight. So we know that both animals and plants contain water in abundance inside them, but the question is, why is water so important to living things? Not every living organism uses water in the same way. For example, a tree is not going to be using water in saliva to help lubricate the throat because, quite simply, a tree does not have a throat. However, there are some important similarities in how all organisms use water. Firstly, water is used as a solvent. A solvent is a substance that is often a liquid that can dissolve another substance into it. Organisms use this property of water to dissolve important substances like sugar, amino acids, proteins, and small nucleic acids so that they can then be transported where need be. Water is able to be used as a solvent as is what's called a polar molecule. Water is made up of two hydrogen linked to a single oxygen atom. The way the atoms are arranged has the two hydrogens close to one side of the oxygen, leaving the other side bare and exposed. Oxygen is an element that has a high electronegativity. This means that it has a tendency, when bonded, to draw electrons closer to it. In the case of water, the oxygen draws the electrons from the hydrogens closer to it. As the electrons are negatively charged, this means that the hydrogens are left being slightly positively charged, and the oxygen is slightly negatively charged. Thus, water is a polar molecule. It has a negative side, the oxygen side, and a positive side, the hydrogen side. This makes it an excellent solvent for many substances, and also largely contributes to having many useful properties regarding temperature. The bonding in water means that the water has a high boiling and melting point, and requires a relatively large amount of energy to heat a certain amount by a certain degree. This makes water an excellent buffer for temperature, which is important for organisms because operating at a precise temperature is extremely important for many chemical reactions as they work at an optimal temperature. In humans, this temperature is around 37 degrees Celsius, and for many plants like trees, they maintain a temperature in their leaves of approximately 21 degrees Celsius. The final use of water of particular importance across all organisms is water as a metabolite. Many of the chemical reactions mentioned before that operate at an optimal temperature also involve water more directly. Water is a part of many chemical reactions in organisms, such as photosynthesis in plants, and digestion and respiration in animals. The reactions that take place in cells, and there are many of them, are referred to as metabolism. Metabolites are just the chemicals involved in these reactions, with water being one of these. When water reacts with a chemical to break it into smaller molecules, the reaction is described as hydrolysis. When water is formed as one of the products when two molecules join together, the reaction is described as condensation. So water is extremely important as a solvent, a temperature buffer, and as a metabolite, but this is not all that water does. Water is used to structurally buffer cells, expel waste, creates moist areas, and many other reasons. Water is also incredibly useful for many organisms in that it plays a direct role in the creation of an environment that the organism lives in. A fish requires a water environment to survive, for example. Water is abundant on this planet. Every living organism is largely made up of water and uses this water for many reasons to maintain life. Without water, life would cease to exist. So the next time you have a glass of water, take a moment to reflect on just how amazing this simple liquid is.